how can you be African American and Christian? It was a question that came up for many people during the civil rights movement in the 1960s and 70s. Interim Pastor Dr. Shears created the term Unashamedly Black and Unapologetically Christian. Dr. Julia M. Speller explains it was a term that encouraged pride in being both, but members struggled with the idea.
Well, the shift that took place in the life of Trinity Church in the early in 1968, 69, 70 was pretty much mirrored in terms of what was going on in the larger community. African Americans, as I said before, were coming into their own, understanding who they were, but they were also beginning to question old structures and to question old ways of doing things. And in the church, of course, particularly in a church where there's African Americans in a larger white denomination, there are going to be questions about how do we and when do we actually begin to speak for ourselves, and how can we actually begin to be who it is we're created to be. It may have been easier to do in a denomination that was all black, but if as a black congregation, a white denomination, that raised some other questions. So this particular time in history caused Trinity to ask the same kind of questions as a congregation. The United Church of Christ was still a young denomination, and clearly some of the reasons why our early members joined the UCC was because of its sense of activism and its commitment to justice. But in many ways, some of the early members were not quite ready to go the next step. They were certainly committed to civil rights, but in terms of being more radical in their expression of that, many people were not quite ready for that. So all around, African Negroes were turning black. But in congregations like Trinity, in many cases, that didn't happen as quickly. So consequently, the ministry that could have been fueled by that energy at Trinity didn't happen. And our numbers began to dwindle. We weren't too sure who it was. We were in a serious identity crisis at the time. So consequently, as those years progressed, as those months progressed between, say, 1971 and 68, 69, 71, we began to lose membership. And the other reality is that we had lost the congregation had lost their founding pastor. Pastor Smith had resigned and went on to another vocational calling. And transition of a pastor is always something very difficult. So the mourning of the passing of the leaving of the pastor, the changes in society, the identity crisis about who it is we are. Am I Negro? Am I black? Is it okay to call myself black when years and years before that black was not beautiful? All of that in many ways caused a decline in the membership and caused the congregation to really question who they were.